Hey there, YouTube. I am Jax Colin. I finally finished the Brothers Karamazov. Dostoyevsky, right? Is that right side up? Yes. Awesome book. Took me a couple months to finish it because I usually only have time to read on the subway, but very awesome. And also in tandem, I'm going to talk about Crime and Punishment, which I read for the first time within the last year. I'm not going to pretend that I could sum up this book in 10 minutes. I mean, it's huge. This could very well be the longest book I've ever read. I am planning a video along the lines of my anarchist morality video based on a section from the Brothers Karamazov. I guess since I spent so much time talking about the state, I'll talk mostly about religion in this and Dostoyevsky's vision of it. I really loved Crime and Punishment. I don't think I liked the Brothers Karamazov necessarily as much as Crime and Punishment, but I'm really glad that I didn't read either one until now. Because honestly, if I had read them in high school, it probably wouldn't have had an effect on me at all. You know, who knows? You can really see the duality playing in him of his love for humanity and love for life and all this stuff, but also at the same time, there's deep cynicism about human nature as well, which is kind of the same in me. You know, I'm an anarchist. I want to can't stop talking about politics at all. I want this free society, but it also at the same time, I don't trust people, and I don't think I will ever be able to trust people. Lots of his characters in this too display that kind of duality, except for Alyosha maybe, but the two brothers, Ivan especially. Ivan, who seems the most like a portrait of Dostoyevsky himself. Ivan's this intellectual, and you know, through all this modern science and everything, he has thrown God overboard. But now he's terrified with the idea that everything is permitted. I know some of us have heard that quote before, without God, everything is permitted. I guess what they neglect to mention is that even though Ivan has thrown God overboard, and the conclusion that brings him to is that everything is permitted, he still has a moral battle within himself. And I won't spoil it too much for you, but by the end, he does the right thing. You know, he does the quote-unquote morally correct thing, even though all his intellect has led him to believe that everything is permitted. But, you know, you still have to live with yourself at the end of the day. I don't think one can just go willy-nilly acting in that manner without receiving some kind of retribution. I guess to quote the Bible, or paraphrase the Bible, you know, you'll sow what you reap what you sow. You know, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. This also might tie into why I like Kropotkin so much too. There's just something about the eloquence of these writers, even though I wish I could read Russian, because I do feel like I'm losing something in the translation, even though the translations of these two books are very good. What I really love about Dostoyevsky is that he talks about philosophical issues, but he places them in the context of a story. And I mean, that's really my chief occupation. You know, I'm not talking about my job, my day job and what I do. I'm talking about my occupation in terms of, you know, what I spend most of my free time doing, and what I'm trying to cultivate is my theater company. But more broadly, I look at it in terms of storytelling. You know, I believe that most artists are essentially storytellers, whether you're a novelist, a playwright, a filmmaker, or, you know, even a painter or a sculptor. You're trying to convey some story, even if it's just in terms of a single emotion or a visceral feeling. All artists are in the business of storytelling. And what I really love is that, although I have grown to be able to read some of these philosophical papers, I find that I can get a much better grasp of the philosophical issues when it's told in the context of a story. You can empathize with a person and kind of put yourself in that position. You know, you take all the different factors into account. And philosophers do this in papers, but I feel like in the straight-up philosophy papers, the examples that are given are these just crazy, ridiculous examples, you know, that don't always have a basis in reality. It's a problem that we would never really encounter. Especially Crime and Punishment, more so, he deals with these philosophical issues. He talks about, you know, he deals with the nature of crime and moral obligation. You know, like, say that you could cure some horrible disease that's running rampant, or, you know, it's in some way save the lives of thousands of people, millions of people. But in order to do that, you would have to murder somebody right now. So in 20 years, you can save millions of people, but in order to get to that point, you have to murder somebody tomorrow. is it morally correct to murder that person? Are you in fact obligated to kill that person? I mean, obviously the problem with this is we can't foresee what effect our actions are going to have in the future. So immediately for me, no, you're not justified in doing it. You're never justified in doing something like that. Well, what if you could go back in time and kill Hitler? Or it's like, well, we can't go back in time. And believe me, if it ever becomes possible, then we can talk about it. But that whole argument is like, well, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you be obligated to do it? I mean, honestly, no, I don't think so. That would be just another example of human arrogance, saying that, you know, we can determine how the universe should run better than it is. It's that same meddling that's been caused by our arrogance that has got us into the position that we are in now, which at its heart, I don't think is that much vastly different than things have been for thousands of years. You know, you got a few rich people at the top, everybody else working to support them. Honestly, I think it's an inevitable state of humanity. So I know I kind of got off the topic of Dostoyevsky in general, but that's what I love, is that his books, you know, challenge me to think and come up with, you know, maybe my own scenarios. I'm by no means a novelist, and I'm only starting to work on my first political play. We'll see how that goes. But anybody out there who hasn't read them, I would suggest both Crime and Punishment, the Brothers Karamazov, and have a good day. I'll see you guys next time.